Kicks 105.5 WKXH. Good morning, I'm JJ. It is Wednesday, June 8th. It's 7:48 and currently 64 degrees outside. I'll have your full weather forecast coming up in just a little bit, but as we do every Wednesday, we have Mike Barrett from the Barrett Insurance Agency with us this morning. Good morning, Mike.
Hey, good morning.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm staying dry.
Well, that's good to do when you're inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if I was getting wet in here, there might be a problem.
There'd be a problem. Yeah, we'd have a very interesting insurance discussion this morning. So.
Yes. So what are we talking about this morning?
Well, you mentioned before we went on the air you had some questions about claims. So go ahead and throw that out there, and we'll try to assess it here.
Okay. So my question was, we talked last week about claims and filing a claim and getting all the information and to your agent, and then that goes to an adjuster.
Mm-hmm.
Now, say you're claiming between your estimates and whatever else is entailed in there that you suffered a $5,000 loss.
Okay.
And it goes to the adjuster, and he comes back, sends something back to you or any agent and says, I don't see it. We can only cover half of that, $2,500. Is there an avenue to appeal that?
You know, you can really push it. Yeah, you can go back and dispute that for sure. It's not going to be all that often that you see a company come in and say, well, it's $5,000 to repair, but we're only going to cover $2,500. It's not often they'll do a depreciation on that because they got to put the car back, right? So they got to put the car back as whole. Where you're going to see some possible disruptions would be an interpretation of that repair, okay? So maybe they're saying, hey, look, you know, for $5,000, they can put new wheels on your car. They can put brand new door on your car, brand new window on your car, or things like that. And there may be some challenges there because brand new, talking about original manufacturer equipment versus aftermarket parts, or even, and I've seen this before, salvage parts. And oh my goodness, what's that? So there are times that I've seen companies go, look, you know, we can fix this and give you back exactly what you had because that's what our job is here. But the door is going to come from this place over here. It's an existing door that came off another vehicle, which is a salvage part. And it can be very frustrating and concerning to people. But here's the thing. They're not going to give you a mismatched door. So it's got to match exactly to what you have on the interior and the exterior. So there may be some room where they're doing that and surprising you and maybe making you uncomfortable with the fact that they're not doing original manufacturer parts. In terms of value, aftermarket parts are a lot less expensive, and their specs, from what my research has yielded, certainly has been meeting the They have to meet requirements in order to be eligible to be an aftermarket part available in the marketplace. So it's my hope that the car would be brought back to what you think. Think about when you're, what's behind your drywall at your house. It's not all pretty all the time, but it's functional and working. And I think maybe that's not a great comparison, but, it needs to be appropriate and correct. And yes, you can go through mediation. You can contest it. You can go back to the adjuster. You can always go to your agent and ask for advice, right? So what we get a lot at our agency is if somebody is hit by another party, okay? We talk about being at fault. If the other party is deemed at fault and it's that person's insurance who needs to respond and repair the damage to your vehicle, we find a lot of times there's question there, maybe some miscommunication, maybe no communication because maybe the person who was quote-unquote at fault didn't file the claim with their company. We're there to certainly help walk you through the process, but there's a very clear line between us and an adjuster, okay? So we're licensed insurance agents, so we can represent the product, we can advise you on the product, we can sell the product. We can't adjust a claim, and claims adjusters can't sell the product. So claims adjusters are licensed specifically in the state that they're in, or even like we are, can be licensed in multiple states, to be claims adjusters to represent insurance companies to handle claims and get you through the process. There's always going to be some give and take. There's always going to be some questions. We're always there to answer some of those, especially if there's gray area, which unfortunately always exists. So that I hope that answers somewhat of your question. The car has to be brought back to whole. Okay, unless it's a total loss, of course, and then you'll get an actual cash value payout for the value of the car. But for repair, the car has to be brought back so that it's the car you had.
Right. So does a claim adjuster, because I don't know anything about claim adjusters.
Sure. They're mean people. Horrible people. Just kidding. I'm friends with many, so if they hear that, they would really be mad at me. And then they would be horrible to me. So
you go to a garage and you get these estimates.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's going to cost, say there's a whole bunch of different things, but say, okay, the door, to get an original door replacement, let's say, just throw out a figure, say it's going to cost $1,000.
Yep.
And that's getting the original from the manufacturer,
Right.
not an aftermarket part.
Right.
Now, does the claim adjuster actually look at aftermarket parts and salvaged parts?
Yes.
That will still meet that
That
criteria.
will meet the criteria.
That will be less expensive.
Yes, and that's exactly the reason. They want to, keeping cost at bay. I mean, if you thought about if all vehicle damage were replaced with the original manufacturer parts, how much more expensive would auto insurance really be? Probably fairly darn expensive. So, that's why, you talk about $1,000 for an OEM part, maybe it's $750 or maybe it's $600 for an aftermarket. Maybe it's $300 for a salvage. And then you're just matching paint on the outside, because if it's going to be salvaged, it's going to be meeting everything. The interior is going to match with yours. I mean, that's got to be a given.
Right.
So they're not going to give you back a car that's 5 different colors and looks like my first car. But it can be confusing, and the expectations is really where this lies, right? We have an expectation of how things should be handled. Whether we know much about the process or not, we have an expectation of what the end result should be. And sometimes what the process to get there should be. And sometimes it's wrong. Sometimes it's not correct. And it's very dependent on the company. There are companies out there that are fantastic with handling claims. You could talk to auto body shops and they go, oh, here are the companies we love because when we work with them, they are good. They don't fight us. They pay. It's appropriate. It's correct. It's on point. Here are the companies that we have to, wrangle with to get anything. So you can find there are good companies and bad companies to deal with in those situations. And I don't name names. I know them, but I don't name names.
Obviously not.
No.
So I got to replace my door.
Uh-huh.
And I can get a salvage door, but it's not the same color.
Yeah.
Will my insurance cover the cost of painting that?
Oh, of course. Yeah, it'll match the paint. It's got to, the word here is indemnification, right? It's got to bring you back to whole. So it's got to bring your car back to what you had before, So, sometimes it's not necessarily completely whole because now your car has a claim, which can, impact the value of a vehicle in terms of a resale value. But it's got to get your vehicle back to what you had so you can drive and operate as you normally would have prior to the accident.
Well, that is certainly good to know. And so my question, you said, had sparked some ideas in your head. What else you got?
Well, that was
going
it.
on?
You talked about it, right? So you brought it up, and I'm like, well, that's a great point, because you talk about somebody saying, hey, look, I got $5,000 worth of damage. The company wants to pay $2,500. What's the deal? Well, that $2,500 is just because probably they're looking at the parts in a different way than you are. You're looking at OEM versus them looking at aftermarket. That can be the discernible difference there. So it's a process. It's, it's a tough industry at times, right? But that's the way it works. And the way companies will handle claims is on a vehicle that's brand new. They'll certainly do OEM for a period of time. What I found recently, though, is no company does OEM on glass. Who knew?
Really?
Yeah. But can you still get OEM? That's a great question. Can you still get OEM if you want the OEM? Absolutely. You just pay the difference. So if the aftermarket door was X and it's X dollars more for the OEM, you can just say, hey, look, I'll handle the rest of that. Just get me the OEM because that's what I want. That's my preference. And there are companies out there who have endorsements that you can add to your policy that will give you OEM repair to your vehicle for the first 10 years of ownership. So there are options.
That is good to know.
Yeah. I have an aftermarket back door window on my truck. I don't care. Just don't tell the Ford dealership.
It just works. Right?
It goes up. It goes down. When it rains, I don't get wet. Sold. And my wife, her car has an aftermarket windshield. Is it preferred? Probably not, but it works. And it meets spec. It meets the exact spec of the vehicle that's on. So it's all good. It just doesn't have the little name of the manufacturer on it.
So with the adjuster, because they shopping around trying to find a cheaper price for stuff, are they going to tell you where they found this item so that you could, investigate or go to yourself?
Most likely.
Obviously, you got to bring the car there.
Yeah. So you're going to go to where you want to go. So it's going to be the auto body shop, the repair facility that you're choosing. You don't have to go to theirs, but you can certainly work with the people to try to get it set up the way that you want it. So you don't have to settle if you don't want to. Just be prepared to pay a little more than your deductible if that's the case.
All right. Let's see.
I think that's all I got. We're almost 10 minutes in.
We're almost 10 minutes.
I don't want to pay twice today. I don't want to pay twice today.
You don't?
No.
I'll take half off the cut.
All right. Yeah, 50% off.
We just won't tell the boss. All right, so if somebody wants to reach out to you and talk with you about this kind of stuff, how do they do that?
Easy. Just give us a call, 748-5224. Find us on Portland Street in St. Johnsbury, online, thebarrettagency.com, plus Facebook, YouTube, and what did I forget? Google. You can find us on all three of them as well, Barrett Insurance
You
Agency.
can find anything on Google.
That's true.
Well, thank you so much, Mike. That was some pretty informational information.
Informational is the way I go.
Yes. Okay, and we will talk to you again next week.
Yes.
Hope you have a great week.
You
Stay
too.
dry out there. All right, Mike Barrett from the Barrett Insurance Agency here on Kicks 105.5. Good morning.